What can you actually see in Singapore if you've only got 42 hours and a flight to Bali to catch?
Turns out quite a lot. Royal gardens that commoners weren't allowed into. A bar where Hemingway used to drink. A boat tour past a Chinese settlement older than the city itself. This is the fast version of Singapore. Here's how we did it.
A quick bit of context. We'd just come from a long flight from Sydney with only a few days to spare before we headed off for a longer stay in Bali. The Grand Prix was in town, so accom was super exy. Luckily, we were staying with a good friend who is a local.
We landed at 7:30 p.m. and soon realised Singapore's dual Changi airport takes things to a whole new level. Check out this amazing rain vortex waterfall inside the airport.
Cool.
Just follow the escalator up and follow the sound of cascading water to find it.
So pretty.
Really pretty.
So you can, there's a walkway that you can walk around up there.
Yeah. Like a futuristic city, alright?
Look at the way it all just sinks down into like this abyss.
Yeah, mad.
It's the world's tallest indoor waterfall, standing 40 metres high and cascading 7 stories down through a glass dome.
You know, more restaurants and cafes and...
We then headed straight from the terminal down to the air-conditioned ride-share waiting area to get a Grab that's just like an Uber. We recommend you download the Grab app before you arrive.
So you order your Grab and then they come, is that
you
it?
tell them which door you're at.
Right.
You can stay in the aircon while you wait. Okay, I'm just going to go and see if I can see. Silver Toyota Corolla.
Right. That was easy.
How are you? Yeah.
You think that the MRT is the best option?
Wow, look. Oh, wow.
That giant Ferris wheel is called the Singapore Flyer, one of the largest observation wheels in the world. A single rotation takes about 30 minutes, offering a sweeping 360-degree views of the Marina Bay skyline. We headed straight to the Supertrees within the gardens by the bay. By 8:45 p.m, we were standing right in front of them because we heard that the light show only runs twice a night and we weren't going to miss it. Oh, did I say the show is completely free?
These towers are up to 50 metres tall, they're covered in real plants, and at night they light up and move with the music like the whole garden is breathing. We were amazed at the limitless combinations of lights they were displaying.
So the thing to do is to lie down on the warm concrete with your bag as a pillow and take it all in.
If you want to get up high, there's a Supertree observatory between the towers you can pay 14 Singapore dollars for, but honestly, the experience is just as good on the ground. After the show, We really wanted to get up to the rooftop bar at Marina Bay Sands for a celebratory drink. 57 stories up, the Sky Park deck sits like a surfboard, balanced across 3 towers. The infinity pool up there is for hotel guests only, but the observation deck and the bars alongside it aren't.
Hey,
Where are we, Kenny?
we're in Singapore, in the gardens by the bay.
Welcome to Singapore.
But because of the F1, the whole rooftop was locked down for a VIP event. It certainly was an interesting time of year to visit, so we'll just have to tick that one off next time. In case you're wondering, here's what the interior below the Marina Bay Sands looks like. So instead, we went to one of Fiona's favourite rooftop bars called Southbridge, and it felt like more of an authentic Singapore cocktail bar, looking right over the river, quieter, no queue, and you still get a proper view of the city lit up at night. It was magic. We celebrated with a famous Singapore sling, which really said, "We've arrived." Getting around Singapore by MRT is incredibly easy. Just tap on with your contactless bank card, phone, or transport card, and you're good to go. The trains are clean, modern, and beautifully air-conditioned, which you'll definitely appreciate in Singapore's tropical heat.
Singapore's trains are actually driverless, which is pretty impressive and a bit spooky when you're looking out the front window like this.
Just remember, eating, drinking, and even chewing gum aren't allowed on the trains, so save your snack until you get off.
Day 2 started at Fort Canning, and let me tell you, adjusting to the humidity is real. It was super hot and sweaty, and I can't believe I decided to run up that hill. I immediately regretted it. Maisie was wiser and took the escalator, reaching the top at roughly the same time. But this hill has more history packed into it than almost anywhere else in Singapore, so we were keen to check it out. The Battle Box Museum is worth a look. It reminds me of a smaller version of Churchill's bunker exhibition in London.
This exhibition is totally free, but you do have to book, and we did that on the Klook app. We opted for paying $7 for headphones to hear the audio tour.
This is the door of a bunker built in 1936, finished in 39, buried under Fort Canning Hill. It was the underground command post for the Allied forces defending Malaya and Singapore. What happened here over 10 days in February 1942 changed the war in the Pacific. Step inside and you're guided by the museum audio describing how the British were overconfident, calling the Japanese little men. They didn't rate the threat. The jungle was meant to be impassable. The guns pointed out to sea. Nobody planned for an army coming down through Malaya on bicycles. The signal control room, old radio sets, tangled cables, a command trying to keep pace with a war moving faster than anyone expected. This room's stacked with old field telephones, once wired to every corner of the base. We were surprised at the efficient Japanese tactics that rattled the British so much that they surrendered without much fight, when in reality, the Japanese were vastly outnumbered. Look closer at these walls and you'll see Japanese graffiti left after they took the bunker for their own use. Singapore's coastal guns were built to fire out at ships, not inland, where the Japanese were actually advancing. All that firepower pointed the wrong way. Then the heart of it, the command room. Pointers tracking an enemy closing in faster than anyone wanted to admit. This is where Lieutenant General Arthur Percival and his commanders sat through the final days, watching the options run out. They ran out fast. Once the Japanese took the high ground and the water catchment areas, Singapore's supply started to fail. A city can survive bombing. It cannot survive without water. That's the moment arrogance turned into a fight for survival. On the 15th of February, 1942, Percival gave the order. Singapore surrendered, one of the worst defeats in British military history. And this is the photograph history remembers. Yahmashita, leaning forward across the table at the Ford Motor Factory, pressing Percival for an answer. No room for negotiation left in it. 10 days. In a windowless room underground. That's all it took to reshape a country's next 4 years.
This old fort gate and stone arch are the last visible pieces of the original fortification still standing.
3.5 years of occupation followed.
There were also a lot of exhibitions on the effect of the war on the people of Singapore, which was pretty devastating for the Chinese population, who the Japanese treated mercilessly. Before the British arrived in 1819, Fort Canning Hill was the seat of Singapore's Malay kings. The hill was home to the Malay royal palace. It was a sacred place reserved for the king and his court. Common people weren't permitted to enter, with the penalty being death. It's fascinating to imagine this peaceful park once being the heart of an ancient kingdom. Next, we stopped for lunch at a Lebanese restaurant on the river's edge, which was a welcome break. We booked a bumboat for a tour of Singapore River, which might be the best way to see this city without walking a single step in the heat. Again, we booked through Klook for $25, but there's also a booking desk at Clarke Quay, but you'll pay more here.
Every day's a hot day in Singapore, so getting out on the water is a great idea and a great way to see the city.
These bumboats used to haul cargo up and down the river. Now they just haul tourists, which must be a much easier life for everyone involved.
We enjoyed sitting back and watching the world float by.
The sheltered riverbanks made excellent loading and unloading places. Back then, the whole river was chock-a-block with thousands of boats transporting a whole myriad of goods to be traded by the merchants who had set up shop in the row of buildings on the bank. Some of those goods included seafood, spices, and rubber. The precious cargo was shouldered across gangplanks by immigrant laborers known as coolies, whose blood, sweat, and tears formed the very backbone of our nation's rise to prosperity. Wonder why all the shophouses are concentrated on just one embankment of Burkill? Well, legend has it that the Chinese immigrants chose to set up home only on the south bank of the river. You'll notice how the riverbank curves just like the belly of a calf. In Chinese culture, this majestic fish is an auspicious symbol of good fortune and a great place to store wealth. These first immigrants believed that this part of the city...
And this is the Fullerton Hotel. This grand old building used to be the General Post Office. Not many people can say they've drifted down a river with Formula One cars thundering overhead, but here we are. George Russell took the win that weekend for Mercedes. Here comes the lion statue that everyone photographs.
We killed time taking some portraits of the beautiful pastel colours that characterise the architecture along Singapore River.
The old Raffles police station, but it's got rainbow colours on the awnings. That's why people like it so much, I think. It used to be the tallest building in Singapore. skyscraper. Imagine that. Now look at that. Now look at it.
Fun fact, the old Raffles police station was one of the first buildings in Singapore to get electric lighting. From the river, we walked to Raffles Hotel for refreshments, and boy did we earn it, as we were pretty steamy when we arrived. This place has been hosting guests since 1887.
Many a legendary writer raised a glass here in the famous Long Bar, Somerset Maugham, Joseph Conrad, Rudyard Kipling and Ernest Hemingway, to name a few. Raffles is one of the oldest and most famous hotels in Singapore, so we just had to visit and sink a Singapore sling.
Now, here's the bit we loved. Back in colonial Singapore, women weren't allowed to drink alcohol in public, so the bar served them tea and fruit juice, same as everyone expected. Then in 1915, a bartender named Ingiam Tong Boon had a quiet idea. He made a cocktail that looked exactly like fruit juice, coloured it pink so it seemed even more innocuous, and let the women of Singapore drink gin in plain sight of everyone.
But first, we had to locate the Long Bar. The entrance is actually upstairs on the first level balcony.
There are no bookings, walk-ins only, and yes, there's usually a line, but don't stress, it moves fast, and they hand out cold tea while you wait, which is actually a lovely touch.
The people too, mess around. They're doing the mess around. They're doing the mess around. Everybody doing the mess around. Everybody was juice, you can bet your soul. They did the boogie woogie with a steady roll. They mess around. They're doing the mess around. They're doing the mess around. Everybody doing the mess around. Now, when I say stop, don't you move a peg. When I say go, just shake your leg and do the mess around. I declare, do the mess around. Yeah, do the mess around. Everybody's doing the mess around. Now let me have it there, boy.
All the doormen at Raffles are Sikh, and that tradition goes back to colonial-era Singapore, when Sikh men were specifically recruited for these roles. It's still part of the hotel's identity today. Maybe it was the cocktails, but we weren't shy in asking for a pic, and they loved posing with us.
After Raffles, we went to Atlas Bar, and the room alone is worth the visit.
It's built inside the old Parkview Square building, full Art Deco. It looks like it was lifted straight out of the 1920s. The guy who decorated this place put a lot of love into it. The drinks and food and service were top-notch. They even found out it was our wedding anniversary and gave us a complimentary dessert.
Thanks so much. Wonderful.
Wow.
Happy anniversary to us.
Ken once again found another antique mechanical cocktail shaker. The fact that people felt like they needed to invent these just shows you again, this place is hot. Bartenders must have worked up a bit of a sweat without these contraptions. We purchased one of their bottles of their signature gin as a gift for our hosts, and they absolutely loved it. It also came with cute little Art Deco inspired postcards.
In the courtyard, there are these striking art installations, and it completely changes the mood of the place. Less hotel grandeur, more underground glamour. If Long Bar is the tourist trophy, Atlas is the one we think locals actually rate. Their grazing plate was also reasonably priced, and the staff was so friendly. Definitely check out Atlas on your Singapore visit.
Singapore's old town is a patchwork. Head south and you're in Chinatown, west and you hit Little India. But here, this is the Muslim quarter, Kampong Gelam. The name comes from the gulam tree that once grew wild along this stretch. Its bark was used to caulk boats.
Wander the back lanes of Singapore and the walls start telling stories. Most of Chinatown's murals are the work of one artist, Yip Yu Chong. He grew up here and started painting the old shophouse walls back in 2015. His scenes are all nostalgia, hawkers, letter writers, family life from a Singapore that's mostly gone now. Some are life-size, so you can literally step into the picture. Head over to Kampong Gelam and the walls get a bit wider. Arab Street, Haji Lane, Bussorah Street, all layered with the murals and genuine street art. Same artist pops up here too, but there's graffiti crews mixed in as well. One half of Singapore painted in memory, the other painted in colour.
We even came across a wonderful tile shop that sold many examples of the Singapore tile patterns that you see on the buildings. We now have them as fridge magnets to remind us. After a day of grand colonial buildings, it was nice to end somewhere a bit scruffier and a lot more fun. We took advantage of one of the many silly photography booths. The photos are a great keepsake and do recommend you doing them.
Haji Lane, the one with all the cafes now, was named after the boarding houses that sheltered pilgrims on their way to Mecca. It really gives you a feel for how Singapore looked in the early days before the skyscrapers started going up.
This was our last morning, and we kept it calm. The Cloud Forest and Flower Dome at Gardens by the Bay, and the National Orchid Garden inside the Singapore Botanical Gardens. They are both open daily from 9 AM to 9 PM. A combined ticket covering both costs 46 Singapore dollars. This is for non-residents, and children are about half that. They're both next to each other, so most visitors do both back-to-back in about 2 hours. The highlight is a breathtaking 35-metre tall man-made indoor waterfall, cascades down a lush, plant-covered mountain. The conservatory replicates the cool, moist environment of tropical mountain regions located between 1,000 and 3,000 metres above sea level. The Flower Dome is recognised as the largest greenhouse in the world by the Guinness Book of Records in 2015. It houses a massive, changing flower field that hosts rotating floral displays and cultural exhibitions throughout the year. When we went, they were focusing on lilies.
So here we are at the Orchid Gardens in the Botanical Gardens in Singapore. I highly recommend you coming here. The orchids are absolutely stunning. We've been spending about an hour here, but you could spend easily 2. Even if you're not a gardener, even if you don't really care for flowers, it's just a beautiful, serene environment to go to. This is the largest orchid display in the world, over 1,000 species and hybrids, and some of them were specifically bred and named after visiting heads of state. There's an actual diplomatic protocol around naming orchids here. Ken's grandfather used to grow prize-winning orchids, so he had a particular affinity to the gardens. It's very pleasant to walk through the exhibits, and such a relief on a hot day.
Because it's so beautifully airconned inside. So that's 42 hours in Singapore. Supertrees, a wartime bunker, a boat tour past history older than the skyline, Raffles peanuts, and the most expensive cocktail of our lives, and a relaxing finish in the Orchid Gardens. By 4 p.m, we were on a flight to Bali with another incredibly ambitious timetable to see as much as we could see of Bali in just 72 hours. Stay tuned to see how it panned out.
For all the highlights of Singapore, please see the description. And once again, please consider subscribing so that you don't miss out on the next one.
Right, so we are off to Bali now, leaving Singapore. It's quite a small flight, only about 3 hours, so we should be able to occupy ourselves a bit. Yeah, but it's a little bit more involved to get into Bali. You need, well, for us, we needed a visa application, a declaration, a health declaration, and the tourist fee, which is about $15. Yeah, be wary of those scam sites because we almost got scammed. But yeah, just make sure you're.
US.
Yeah, but it should be 50. So anyway, yeah, we're just about to take off. So we'll see you there.
When are you planning your trip to Singapore?